We left off where our keys don't do anything. So I guess the first thing we're going to want to do, right, is we're going to want to actually create an event listener for all of our keys, basically, right? So for every single key, we're basically going to want to create a handle key event, right? So let's actually go ahead and do that. I'm going to create it inside of the keyboard class, and you'll see why in a few minutes. But inside of the keyboard.svelte, we're going to come up in here, and I'm going to create a constant key press function. It's going to take in a key, which I'm just going to set to an empty string by default. And there we go. So in this key press, we basically want to handle when a key is pressed. So for now, I'm just going to console.log key pressed. There we go. So what we want to do is whenever we press a key, we want to handle this. And to do that, we need to handle an event inside of this child component. So I'm going to pass it down as a prop because it's only going to be going down to one component. So in here, we are going to take in a export let key press, like so, and this is going to be a function. So we're going to do on click, and I'm going to just do key press, and we're going to pass in the character dot to uppercase, like so. There we go. So we're going to pass in the key, which means we also need to pass it in as a prop. So we're going to do key press, like so, on all of these components. I don't know why that's coming up. Yay. Very, very annoying. Okay. There we go. So we're passing in this key press function to all of these components. Text document hovered. I don't know why. Yay. Okay, and so there we go. So let's actually go ahead and try this out. So let's do Control-Shift-I. I'm just going to open this on a separate screen. There we go. And when we click the letter T, we can see T was pressed, P, Enter, and Delete. So let's go ahead and get started by actually inserting the letter into whatever key is pressed. And to do this, if you recall, the way we insert a letter is we say the letter of the Y coordinate and the X coordinate is what produces our letter. So I guess what we basically need to do is we need to create a store that's going to hold on to basically our current state, right? How many attempts have we done and what character are we on? So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to do export const game info, and that's going to be a writable of, we're going to have two variables, car, which is going to be the current character index, and that's going to be 0. Right, because by default, we're going to start here on the X, 0. And then the attempts index, which is also going to be 0. We're going to start right here and right here. So a Y of 0 and a X of 0. So this is going to be our game info thing. So let's actually go ahead and import this. Import game info from /store.js, like so. Okay, so with this game info component, instead of just logging the console's pressed, let's actually go ahead and add the key to the current index, right? So what we're going to do is I am going to basically create a, we're going to do we'll do let's attempt in car is equal to game info, like so. So we're going to get the attempt and the character, like so. What we're going to want to do then is we're going to do board.update with the previous board. What we're going to do is we're going to create a temporary new board. Const new is equal to the previous board, right? Because we're just making a copy. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do new board at our attempts and our character plus plus. We're going to set it equal to the key, like so. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to set the character at our board to the key. So if we're at 0, 0, which we will be by default, the 0th attempt is this row, and the 0th key is going to be right here. And then we're going to set it to the key, the actual character, right? And then we're going to do char++, which is why I just put it in line right here. And then we just return the new board, like so. And now, if I type in the letter R, you can see it goes here. I can type the letter Y, and it goes there. Now, one thing that you may notice is that doing char++ didn't really do anything, right? Like, you know, that's not very friendly. And it's because we can't just, the game info variable isn't actually getting changed, right? So what we need to do is we need to do game info.sets, right? Attempt and char, like so. And now we should be able to just type. And one thing you'll notice is it's going to start trying to create extra things. And the reason this is happening is because once we get here, right? Once we get to the point where the character is at index 4, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, we don't want to be able to type anything. We need to be able to hit enter. So what we'll do is we'll do a quick check. We'll do if car is greater than 4, we're just going to return. And this simple check will make sure that we can't go out of bounds. So let's just type ease, and you'll notice we're basically fine, right? But let's say I want to delete. Like, let's say I want to delete the character E. How do I go about doing that? Well, basically, what we actually need to do is have another check in our keypress function. What we're going to do is we're going to check if the key is equal to delete. And if it is, I'm going to create a handle delete function. Const handle deletes. And we're going to call this function, right? So we'll do handle deletes, like so. And while we're at it, let's also create a if the key is equal to enter as well. And you guessed it, we're going to create a const handle enter, like so. Okay, so we'll call handle enter if the key's an enter, and we'll call handle delete if else. And then basically I'm going to just wrap all of this in the else clause, like so. So now that we have that, that looks good to me. I'm just going to indent these all like that. Okay, so inside of this handle delete, basically what we need to do is we just need to, well, delete the current character. So basically the first thing you're going to want to think of, though, is if we have no characters, right? If we just empty this out and I hit delete, I don't want to subtract the character value. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to check if the game info.character is equal to 0, right? We're just going to return. We don't want to do anything if we're right here, or right here, or right here. So we're just going to get rid of that. Next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to do game info.update. We're going to get our previous state. And what we're going to want to do is we're basically going to return, right, our new object where the character is equal to the character minus 1, right? So the previous character minus 1. And the attempt is going to be equal to the previous attempt, like so. And when we do that, it's going to update our state, right? But the thing is, it's not going to update the game. So if you look here, it's going to allow us to go forward, right? And you'll see it changes. We're able to like change the values, but it doesn't delete them, so to speak, right? So how do we do that? Well, we also need to update our board whenever we change the character as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Here we're going to do board dot update, and it's not like that. It's board dot update, and we're going to get our previous board again, like so. We're going to create a new board, like so, and set it equal to the previous one. And then we're going to do new board of our game info.attempt, and that's going to be our Y position, right? Because that doesn't really change in a delete. It never does. And then we're going to do game info.character. And we're going to set it equal to a empty string. And this will now allow us to actually delete characters. So you can see nothing happens if I click delete. If I click the letter P, it puts it in. But I can click the delete. So I can't. I might have an error. Ah, I do. Each only iterates over array-like objects. Let's see. Oh, it's because I have to return the new board array, like so. So that was a whoopsie. Okay, so now we can see we can add, we can delete, we can add multiple, and we won't go past right here. And we can delete, and everything works fine. Now let's say I've added, right? I've created a word like there, and I want to hit enter and start getting results. How do I go about doing that? Well, inside of our handle enter function, I'm going to create the logic for that now. So inside of the handle enter function is just like before. We need to check to make sure we're actually at the character of 5, right? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to be right here to actually enter, right? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to check if gameinfo.character is not equal to 5, we're just going to return, right? Because if it isn't equal to 5, then, because if it's equal to 5, that means we've already, right now we're at 5, right? So if it's not equal to 5, we don't want to be here. And to make this simpler, I'm also just going to do let's attempt and car is equal to game info. So we're going to be using these variables quite a bit in this function. Okay, so if it's not equal to 5, let's just return. If it is equal to 5, instead of advancing the character by 1, what we're going to do is we're going to do game info.set, right? And we're going to take the attempt and we're going to increment it by 1. So we're going to do attempt plus 1. And then for the character, we're going to increment it or set it to 0, right? Because when you go to a new line, you also go to the 0th position. So let's try this out. Hit enter, and what do you know? It all seems to be working. I can click delete, and if I click A, it won't go backwards. So this is perfect. We have the ability to do everything we need to do. But we don't have any colors, and that's kind of lame, so let's actually add some colors. And this is a really fun part of this. So first thing we're going to want to do is we have a few things here, right? We're going to need to get, we're going to need a way to store a color associated with a column in a row. So inside of our store, let's go ahead and add a few more exports. The first thing we're going to want to do is let's just export a word, right? So let's just call it const game word, and it's going to be a writable, and let's say by default it's hello, like so. Next, we're going to want to export a constant guess, and this is also going to be a writable, and by default it's going to be empty. After that, we're also going to want to export a constant colors array. And this is also going to be a writable of a grid, right? It's going to be a one-to-one mapping of our current grid, but instead it's going to hold the color like class name, as you can kind of think of it, right? So by default, they're all going to be blank, but if it's green, so for example, hello, which this is going to be hello, right? This should all be green, which means we need the grid to associate green with these indexes. So let's actually go ahead and get started with this, right? The first thing we're going to want to do is inside of here, we are going to want to get our previous attempt, right? We've already hit enter, which means now if we hit enter, we're on this line, right? So we want to color this line. We don't care about this one yet. We want to color this one. So how do we do that? Well, first thing we're going to do is we're going to do const previous is equal to our game info dot attempt minus 1, because our current attempt is going to be this one. So we want to subtract 1 and get the old one, right? Then we're going to create a copy of our colors board. So we're going to do copy and call it new colors board is equal to colors, like so. And we also need to import this from above, right? So we'll do colors. We'll also import the word, game word. We'll import the guess, and I think that is it for now. There we go. Okay, so now we have the new colors board. And for now, I'm just going to console console.log the new colors board, like so. And let's actually see what we get, right? So I'm going to open up the console again, and let's see what happens when we hit enter. So if I do Alt-T's and we hit enter, we'll get the array. And what you'll see is we just have an empty array, basically. And that's, I think, to be expected. One second, I'm looking through. Yeah, that looks correct. Okay, so we have our empty array, right? So what we want to do now is basically we're going to iterate over every single character that is in our previous attempt, right? So if we actually console.log this, our previous attempt, what you'll see is this is a lot more fun to look at, right? This is the index of our previous attempt. So now this should be 1, right? It's just going to increment. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to iterate over this. So we're going to do for let I equal 0, I is less than 5, I plus plus. And what we're going to do is we're going to do let's car is equal to our board at our previous attempts with the index of I. So we're going to say the y coordinate, right, is our previous attempts. I is going to be the actual x coordinate of our row, and we're going to do .2 uppercase, as that's kind of the convention we're using for all of our variables, right? So 2 uppercase. And now we will have our actual thing, right? So what we want to do is we want to update our guess variable we created down below. We basically want this to be the word, right? So if we typed in hello, right, we want to make sure that the guess matches this. So what we want to do is we want to increment this character by character. So to do that, we're just going to do guess.update the previous cars. And what we're going to do is we're just going to set it equal to the previous cars plus the current character, like so. So this is going to update the current guess. Next thing we want to do is we actually want to see if our word is correct, right? So, or if our current character position is correct. If I typed in a word, right, I want to see if this H is green, right? This H should be green. And to do that, we check if the current character at index 0 of our word, right, is equal to cars. So to do that, let's do if game word at index I dot to uppercase, so we got to convert it to uppercase to compare it against the character, is equal to the character, right? If it's equal to the character, then we know that it is the correct letter, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to actually update our new colors board to show that. So we're going to do new colors board at index previous attempts of I, and we're going to set it equal to correct. And this is basically just going to be either correct, it's going to be close, or incorrect, right? So this is all we have to do to check if it's correct. And just to demonstrate what we're trying to do, let's go over to our cell component, right? And actually change a few things, right? So in our cell component, we want to style the background color based on the actual colors. So let's import the colors array, like so. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to have our color is equal to colors of y and colors of x, right? That's why we're trying to get. We're trying to get the color at this exact coordinate. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say the class is equal to an object. We're going to do a template string where we're going to put cell, and then we're going to put in our color if it is, right? If not, this might just be empty. By default, this is just going to be an empty string. And then down here, we can create a class for .correct. And the correct, we're just going to set the background color to be var green, like so. Now again, nothing's going to change, right? I can type in the word hello, which is the word we're trying to get, and nothing's going to change. And it's because right now, we're not actually setting, right? We're never actually setting the color, right? The color board, right? So let's actually do that. Let's just do colors.set new colors board, like that. So let's try it. Let's try Helly, and what you can see is now we can get correct letters. But let's actually go one step further, and instead of just handling correct letters, let's handle when the letter is in the word, right? It's in the correct word, but it's just not in the right location. So let's do that now. And we're going to do game word, right? Else if game word at dot to uppercase. We're going to convert the whole string to uppercase now. Dot includes our character. If it includes our character, right, then we know it's in the correct location. So let's actually do that now. So let's do new colors board of previous attempts of I is equal to close. And our close color is going to be our fun orange. So let's actually come down here, dot close, and set the background color to var orange, like that. So the word is hello. So I'm going to put H in the correct location. I'm just going to put an E, an O, an L, like so. And what you'll see is it says, hey, the H is correct, but the E and the O and the L isn't, right? And that's basically what we want. But one thing you'll notice is HE, for something like LL like this, right? We don't want all of these to be orange, right? In a case like this, right, we only want one of these to be orange. According to the way the Wordle works, if there's two letters in a word, but they're both in the incorrect location, you only highlight one of them to be orange. So how do we handle that, right? And one thing you can kind of think of is, how do we know if we've came across this character before while inside this loop? And to do that, we're going to come up here and use something called a set. So we're going to do const duplicate cars is equal to a new set, like so. And basically what we're going to do is in here, in this if, before we actually set this, we're just going to say if duplicates dot has character, right? So if it does not have this character, aka if it is this L right here, not this one, then what we're going to do is we are going to set it, right? So we're going to set the new board of that position like so. And then we're going to do new board, we're going to do duplicates, duplicate chars dot add the character, like so. So that means the next time, so for the first L, it's going to add this. For the next one, it's not going to pass this if, and it's going to go to our next thing, right? So basically, we can now handle, right, something like this. And what we need to check now is, okay, do we have like any characters that don't belong? Like all these T's should be colored something different, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So down here in this final if check, or not even if check, with the else, we're just going to say new color board at previous attempts at I is equal to incorrect, like so. And this is going to say, hey, if you made it this far, all of them are they're incorrect, right? So let's come down here, that our dot incorrect. We're going to set the background color to be var of dark. I think it was. Let me make sure. Dark. Yep, and this is this lighter gray color. And one thing I'm also going to do is, let's just test this out first, right? So just add some random letters, and E is correct. It's just not in the right location. Let's try these, right? Is we want to kind of add a little bit of a transition. Not something fancy like they're doing on their site, but we'll just add a little bit of a transition for the background instead of to 0.7s, like so. So now when we change this, right, they'll all kind of fade in just a little bit. It makes it a little nicer. Okay, so now we're basically done with this, but we need to check if the word was correct, and we need to handle that, right? We need to see if the word's correct. We don't want them to keep guessing. So let's go ahead and add that, and that'll segue us perfectly into our next episode, where we'll add a secondary page where we'll show the results, as well as generate new words and let them keep playing. So let's go ahead and do that. First thing I'm going to do is inside of the store, I'm going to export a constant called game over, and this is going to be a writable of false by default, right? The game's not over if you haven't started it. And basically what we're going to do is inside of our keyboard, right, down here, at the very end of our for loop, we're going to want to, after setting the colors, we're going to check if the game's over. So we're going to do if the guess, right? Because if you remember, we've been updating the guess this whole time to start including each character. If the guess is equal to game word dot to uppercase, right? If it's equal to that, or the previous attempt is equal to 5, then we're going to set game over dot set to true. And the reason we're doing if the previous attempt is equal to 5 is because if we're at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right, the previous attempt, which means we've already incremented it. So now we're at 6. That means we're down here. If we're at 5, we need to be at the game over state anyway, right? And we're just going to do that. And else, we're going to say guess dot sets to a empty string. The reason we're doing this, and this is very, very important, the reason we're setting the guess to an empty string after this is because later on, we don't want our guess to keep getting longer and longer and longer, right? To then include all of the characters. So that's what we're going to do. And in the next episode, we're going to go ahead and actually create a kind of game over page, as well as style that up, add a little bit of transitions, and finish up our project. So if you found this video useful, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, as well as join our community Discord server if you have any questions.